Welcome to Southwest Yard and Garden. I'm John White. Today we're going to be talking about some cool season weeds, and these are the grasses and some of the broadleafs that are showing up in our dormant Bermuda yards. So when you have a nice brown yard and you got all this green stuff coming up, you want to know what it is, and with me today to explain that is Dr. Richard Lee. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks,
Richard's our extension weed specialist, and looks like we've got some good samples here.
We've got 3 real good samples of the common weeds that we're going to find this time of the year in the Bermuda grass, John. And we'll start right here. This is a wild barley, John. It's either wall barley or hair barley. Very, very common this time of the year. It's a winter annual. It germinated late in the fall, grew through the winter months, and is now flowering and setting seed. It's easiest identified by the awns associated with the seed head, John. These awns will get into the feet of pets and kids' feet as well, and it really can be kind of a nuisance. And right over here we have rescue grass. This is a real common winter annual grass that we're seeing this time of year, John, because we've had some moisture. This is the seed head associated with rescue grass. It's more of a spear-shaped seed head, very compressed, really characteristic in identifying it. The other way to identify rescue grass, John, is through the pubescence or the hairs associated with the leaf. It's a very hairy pubescent blade, and it kind of gives this purple cast to it, so it really is easy to identify. But then we've got this little third guy right here, and we've even got some annual bluegrass with a little bit of rescue grass sticking his head in there, John. But annual bluegrass is identified by having a keel-shaped leaf blade. When the leaf goes out to the end, it forms the keel much like a boat. And look, here we got one that's already setting seed. So John, we've been fortunate here that we found a seed head of annual bluegrass, the rescue grass, which helps us, and also the wild barley. Now, once they're in this stage of growth, though, John, it's really too late to do anything about them, because once they've set seed, they're just planning on coming back to see you next year.
Okay. Well, let's go take a look at some more.
Okay.
Richard, looks like we have a good green clump here.
Well, this is a nice patch of black medic, John. This is a pretty healthy population that I've seen. One of the better ones, anyway. Way to help us identify the black medic versus a clover, which people will confuse this with. The black medic likes the cooler climate, so it will start growing in the fall of the year. It'll die back once it gets warm and then green up again in the fall. But with clover, as you look at the 3 leaflets here, you would note that on clover they all attach in the center, but with black medic you have the terminal one has a little bit of a stalk on it. And that's really the easiest way to tell the difference between black medic and clover if you don't have this nice yellow flower color here.
Okay. What's this bright yellow flower here?
Speaking of bright yellow flowers, everybody knows that this is dandelion, and dandelion isn't a winter annual, John. It's a simple perennial. But it started in early this year because we're getting some moisture off this building, and it's given it a drink, and it said now's the time to go. This is one that has already come up and put on the yellow flower, and that flower's turned white and set seed and dispersed itself.
That's the one that the kids always like to blow the little parachutes off with.
That's right. That's called job security for us, John, because it just spreads it, and that's how dandelion does spread.
I see we have another weed coming up over here, making its presence known.
Well, that's a nutsedge species there, John. Whether it's yellow or purple, I don't know at this point in time, but if we were to dig down, John, we'd probably find the tuber, which allows that one to spread, and it's probably already starting to come up from those tubers produced deep in the soil. They're a creeping perennial, so this little patch probably will continue to get bigger. All of the plants we see around through here are probably attached underground, John.
And the more you try and dig it, the more it's going to spread.
If you're not careful, part of the problem with these creeping perennials is when we get in there to dig them, we break up the roots and we spread those roots, and that's how we spread the plant is through the roots, or we'll actually take the tubers themselves and move them from one side to the other.
Okay. Well, let's go see what else we have here.
Okay.
Richard, looks like we have a lot of green plants coming up here.
Well, there is quite a bit around here. But look, this is a good one, John. This is a London rocket. This is a mustard that germinated last fall. Or
this could be the state weed of New Mexico.
This time of year, we see lots and lots of London rocket in waste areas, in fields. This is a nice, healthy one because you can see that it's already set seed. It's a typical mustard with the flowers in the shape of a cross. There are 4 petals in the shape of a cross. This is one of the earlier mustards, John. This one comes up around Halloween. It'll get a good start. It'll grow through the winter months. And then in the spring, before it really starts to get warm, it will produce seed and be gone. Now, there's some others that we've got. We have some tansy and some flaxweed, but they're not here just yet. They're coming, though.
Okay. Well, let's go take a look at some more weeds.
All right, let's do that.
Richard, we have looks like a nice looking weed here.
Well, John, here's another one of those mustards that we find. This is shepherd's purse mustard. It is different than the Flicks or the Tansy or the London Rocket in that it has the white flowers. And look at the shepherd's purse shaped seed pods. Rather than long and skinny, it's really kind of a cute little flower here, John.
Very distinctive.
Very distinctive. Very
Looks like we have another little small weed started up here.
Well, earlier we did talk about the Flicks and the Tansy, and this is a Tansy mustard right here, John. And note that it is much shorter, much smaller than we saw with the London Rocket because it's just starting to get started. It will grow the same height as the London Rocket, John, but it just gets a little bit later start in the year. So we can start to see more of these as the weather warms up and we start getting some moisture. We start watering our lawns, as we start just seeing a little bit more moisture. These guys are going to come out of the ground pretty good.
Now, as far as cool season weeds, Richard, control-wise, is there anything we can do?
Well, these guys have already started coming up, John, and it's very, very difficult to come up with a management plan for winter annual weeds, the mustards and the rescue grass, particularly when the dormant Bermuda grass is just starting to come out of dormancy. So really the easiest way to get rid of these things is to reach down and just pull them up just like that, John.
Good control.
Works for me.
All right. Well, Richard, thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you,
and
John.
Thanks for the weed tour.
Uh-huh.